So introducing Ortal today. Ortal is a passionate educator. She's based in Australia and she's on a mission to empower teachers to create tomorrow's innovators in their classrooms. She started her career as a computer scientist and she's worked for top global tech companies such as IBM and Mercury for several years. So being involved, working at the forefront of that cutting edge industry helped her understand the importance of technology for the future of work. And it's so important. Additionally, Ortal's got 3 sons and I've got 4 sons. So we've got lots of sons between us. And watching them go through primary school made her realize that they're not being prepared for the future. So there's the movement in STEM, the science, technology, engineering, maths, and she saw it going in the right direction. But she also saw, Ortal also saw those essential skills such as creative thinking and the development of that innovative mindset, to name a few, and they were being left out. So having that technological background, being that design thinking practitioner, she's able to see the need and the way to bridge the gap. And so therefore, Ortal co-founded Glittering Minds and created a program for primary schools, PBL and beyond. So this program provides the needed paradigm shift in primary level education by introducing design thinking as the new pedagogy. And I'm really looking forward to being able to talk with Ortal today about the design thinking. She's also written the book Think Unique, which empowers teachers to create tomorrow's innovators in their classrooms. So this book provides teachers with the knowledge and the tools required to set up children for success in the 21st century. So wow, what an amazing introduction there, Ortal.
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful introduction. Definitely, I have a lot of passion for education and for helping children today thrive in the world and in the future, which is filled with uncertainties. Yes. And especially after the last couple of years, we know how uncertain the future might be and how we need to be ready and prepared to think differently in order to overcome the different challenges and obstacles that we might face.
Absolutely. And so obviously you started to see some challenges in the education system, particularly as your sons were going through. So what challenges do you see in the current education system?
Yeah, there's still, you know, the education system was actually designed a long time back in the USA by a man called Horace Mann. And he designed the education system to prepare children to the world after the first industrial revolution. So preparing them to work in factories. And he actually said, this is a way for us to create obedient citizens, to take the unruly Americans and turn them into obedient factory workers. And this is why, for example, the bell is used in schools to adhere to the bell, because in factories as well, there was bell that was signaling the workers when they need to move from one task to another, when they have a break. And the whole idea behind it was to create people who just follow orders and obedient and do as they told. And looking at today's world, what we need is exactly the opposite. We need people who know how to think differently, how to think creatively, how to think critically, how to challenge the status quo, how to think for themselves. And this is, in my mind, the biggest gap that we have in the education system. There's still also the standardized testing and the whole direction of one right solution. So this system is basically answer-driven and not question-driven. The students are expected to know the one right solution, to memorize it, and often, you know, just repeat it to the teacher. So they learn this is the one right answer, and then they need to repeat it and write it in the exams, for example.
Yes, I still see that sort of thing happening in so many places around the world. There are some education systems that are starting to ask those questions, but in so many ways, there's so much of that question answer, and what are the answers? Regurgitate that into exams around the world. So,
yes.
So what do you wish you'd learnt at school?
Well, of course, I wish I learned design thinking because design thinking changed me profoundly. when I learned design thinking as a young adult, I felt that it was as if I put a different glasses and suddenly I saw the world completely differently. It was full of colors and lots of different nuances, and it was beautiful. Because design thinking really changed how you look at the world around you, how you perceive things, how you approach people, problems, everything in your life. It changed me as a parent. For example, I'll just share you a few stories that you'll understand what difference it made in my life. So I learned, as part of design thinking, I learned that we need to pay attention to how we word our questions. Because often we word our question in a very leading manner, and we also might form a question that is closed question and not open-ended question. A simple example is often when parents picking up their children from school, they ask them, did you have a good day at school? And this is a closed question and also very leading question, because we expecting our child to have a good day at school, right? But the right way to go about it in an open manner and unbiased or leading way would be to ask, how was your day at school? And then you leave it to the child to give you with the right answer for them, with how they really felt about being at school. You're not directing them to a particular place, good or bad. This is one example. Another example is that I let them sit with the problems they have and come up with solution. You know how as humans, we often jump to solution and we want to help others as well. So when there is a problem, we rush to find a solution and we often go with the first idea for solution that comes in our mind. And as parents, because we love and care for our children, often we rescue them. And when they have a problem, we immediately offer a solution, which probably not working the best for them, because it's better for them to sit with a problem and learn how to solve problem themselves, how to come up with their own ideas for solution. So as a design thinker, I let my children understand, explore the problem, and I might guide them in terms of what to think about or what to take into consideration, but I let them come up with their own solution and ideas and then choose the one that they think is the most suitable to solve that problem. So yeah.
That's a really, really good example of how you can use it as a parent as well, because we're talking here about education, but you're also here talking about parents as well as teachers. I'm just realizing we haven't talked about what design thinking actually is. So you've talked about the differences that it makes for you, for your children, and as a parent. But what is design thinking?
That's a good question. At a high level, design thinking is a combination of a mindset, approach, tools, methodology that enables you to come up with innovative solutions to problems. At its heart, design thinking is a human-centric approach. So when you solve the problem, you solve it with the people who face the problem. You don't solve it for them. So they're part of the process of coming up with ideas for solution that actually suits them and that are desirable by them. Design thinking is broadly used in the world by different companies and startups. They use it successfully to disrupt the world, like Airbnb and Uber and M3. And also it is adopted by non-for-profit organizations such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to solve the really complex and hairy problem that we have in the world. So they recognize how powerful design thinking is in solving problem and coming up with solutions that actually suitable and meet people's needs.
So how do you go about it? Like if you've got a problem, you see a big problem, how can you use design thinking to be able to actually solve that problem?
Yeah, so you go through different stages, and the first part is focusing on the problem and really understanding the problem. And I mentioned before that as humans, we often uncomfortable staying with a problem for a long time. But in design thinking, we learn that we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we need to stay with the problem and really research it in many different ways, whether it's research by doing some research online on the problem, or by interviewing people, asking them a question to understand their day-to-day life, how they experience this problem, what are their needs, pain points, desires. We can also perform observations to actually look and see what happens, because often people say one thing, but when you actually observe what they're doing things a bit differently. So observation is a very powerful tool to understand what really actually happening and to identify friction points or pain points or issues within a process or product. So we spent a long time researching the problem, and often that research actually might lead us to realizing that the problem we started with is not actually the problem we need to work on. Maybe there is a better problem to solve, or maybe this is not the root cause. Maybe we discover that the root cause is different, and so we framing the problem in a different way to fit with what we discovered. So once we have all that information from the research phase, this is the time to make sense of all that information, and that can be overwhelming. Because, you know, we're all surrounded by so much information on a day-to-day basis, and just looking at all of that and trying to make sense of it can be a bit intimidating. And so we have a way to go about it where we actually usually cover the walls with Post-it notes with a small pieces of information, and then we start to sort it. So what are the common things that we found? What are the differences? What are the patterns that we see? What is standing out as being really different? So really exploring and understanding the information that we gathered. And from that, actually, we drive insights, because once we know what are the themes that emerge from the research, this is what enables us to really understand the problem. And then we're ready to think about solutions to the problem. So after we spend a lot of time in that space of the problem space and we have insights on the problem, this is where we're ready to come up with ideas for solutions. And this is where we encourage everyone to come up with crazy ideas, to remove any boundaries from the thinking, to think creatively and build on each other ideas. Because, you know, the best ideas are the ones where we brainstorm different solutions within a diverse group of people, and everyone is building on each other ideas, and that helps us come up with amazing solutions. And so in that stage, we don't apply any critical thinking. We just think creatively and come up with as many ideas as possible. Quantity is really key here. And once we finish coming up with ideas, this is the time to apply critical thinking and think, okay, looking at all these ideas, what criteria do we need to apply in order to choose a few ideas to take forward and prototype? From all of these ideas that we came up with, which ideas are most suitable to the problem that we are trying to solve? So we're applying the critical thinking, choosing the top, let's say, 3 ideas. Then we prototype them, which means we bring them to life. Basically, the intention here is to create either a model or a drawing, or it can be an ad or a video or a sketch, whatever it might be, that will help us explain to other people what our idea for solution is. And that will enable that discussion and the feedback loop from other people, because we want to get feedback as quickly as possible to our ideas before we actually, you know, take it to production, take it to the market, because by then it's too late.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I can hear how much thinking goes on at all of these different levels. And I love the way that you're spending so much time on thinking about what the actual problem is. That's a real key, isn't it? And I know one of the quotes that's attributed to Albert Einstein is he talks about being given 60 minutes to solve a problem. And if he had 60 minutes, he would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem. And then that last 5 minutes thinking about solutions.
Exactly right. No wonder he was a genius. Because the more time you spend on the problem, the easier it is to solve it, because then you really understand all the aspects of the problem. And the problem that we usually have as humans is that we don't spend enough time in that space, and we just rush to solutions, and then it comes back to us after a while.
Absolutely, it does. And so, okay, let's think about children. Why is it important for children today to learn design thinking?
Yeah, so looking at our world today, as you know, with the advancement in technology, which are wonderful and great, so many tasks or jobs that we used to do as humans are replaced by computers. And the technology is advancing in such a huge pace. So with machine learning and AI, you know, they do more and more of the complex tasks that we used to do. But we still have our superhuman skills, our superhuman traits that computers cannot replace, such as creative thinking, critical thinking, empathy, collaboration, and problem solving. These are the things that machine can't perform. And this is where we shine. And this is where our future lies. The future of work lies with using these skills in our day-to-day job. And by learning design thinking and practicing design thinking, children actually develop these superhuman skills that I mentioned before. And this is what prepares them to success today and in the future. Whatever job they decide to do, whatever career path they would want to pursue, they still need to have these basic core skills that will set them up for success.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can hear just how much talking they're having to do with each other and learning about those relationships and being able to collaborate with each other. And those are things that traditionally were not taught in the education system. And so I can hear that that is very much a part of the whole process of design thinking, learning how to get on with other people, learning about your own skills, learning about the other people's skills, and being able to support that development of ideas.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is no focus on how we work together, how we receive feedback from others. You know, one of the things I've noticed, and then when running this program, PBL and Beyond at schools, is that children are not taught how to accept feedback. And they see it as a personal attack from a very young age. And I think many adults as well, they don't know how to really embrace feedback and how to use it for their advantage. So children initially see it as a personal attack, and they're not happy about receiving feedback. But as they learn design thinking and as they go through that process, and a lot of it is getting feedback from others about the idea they came up with, about the product that they want to produce. And so they learn that by taking this feedback on, they can improve actually what they're doing. They can improve their idea, improve their product. Then they learn that it's actually a good thing, and they start seeking for feedback. And it's amazing to see, because teachers told me it has impact across the board. Suddenly in literacy, they come to the teacher and say, what do you think about this piece that I wrote? What do I need to change? What do I need to improve? So they realize that this is just a first draft. Whatever they've written as an answer or as an essay or whatever they're working on, this is just the starting point, and they need to work on improving that to getting it better. So that mind shift in children is huge, because when you open to get feedback, this is how you grow as a person and professionally as well.
Absolutely. And when we're in a world where so many more people are going to have to be able to create their own jobs and to be able to create things that have a market, we need to be able to get feedback in order to be able to succeed, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's a great gift to give children, that ability to embrace and seek feedback. And I often hear from adults, they say, oh, I wish I've learned that at school because I still don't know how to do it.
Absolutely. So some of the things we're talking about here is the impacts of adopting design thinking in a school. Yeah. Yes. So the children are willing to accept feedback, are looking for feedback. Are there any other impacts of adopting design thinking in a school?
Definitely. Adopting design thinking at school as the new pedagogy has really deep and broad impact on the school. I'll start with the children and then I'll move to the teachers and the rest of it. With the students, as I mentioned, the children develop wonderful skill. I mean, one of them is embracing feedback, which also means being more resilient. right? So they're resilient to what's happening around them. They're not immediately thinking, oh my God, it's reflecting badly on me, I've done something wrong. And that's so important in today's world, to be resilient. They also develop their creative thinking, and they develop their empathy. I hear from teachers that they notice a difference even in the schoolyard at lunch break or recess. You know, often children kind of have their arguments in terms of what are we going to play, what are we going to do. And that one of the teachers told me that suddenly she noticed that the students are asking other students when they're arguing, so what do you want to do? What would you enjoy doing now? And they take into consideration, you know, other perspective or other what other children wish to do. So developing their empathy has a huge difference on the social interaction in school and generally their approach in the world. So with that children, obviously, I see them developing these essential 21st century skills as a result of adopting design thinking as a new way of teaching and learning. And with teachers, there is a profound impact as well. Suddenly they learn to put the students at the heart of everything they do, and they look at things from the student's perspective. And that's a huge shift. And it impacts not only how they teach math and literacy and inquiry units, it also impacts how they approach behavior issues. So they really think about the student needs and explore it, and often explore it with the parents as well. So they learn that they need to involve everyone that is part of that in order to find the right solution. So it's the students, it's the family, it might be other students in the classroom, it might be the whole class. So they open their mind to really exploring and understanding the problem, involving the people that are part of that in that process, and then coming up with the right approach and solution for the problem at hand.
Wow, that is huge. And amongst, and you know, in and of itself, that is absolutely huge, isn't it? To actually stop and be able to think, what is going on for the student? Because so often in the education system that I'm seeing, both in primary and in secondary, time is such an issue, isn't it? And you're trying to get through all of these things, and it does have that cost, if you like, of having to take time, but the result, I'm sure, will be so much better, that it's worth taking the time to be able to get to know the student, to think about it from that student's point of view. We talk in New Zealand about, do you see me? Do you know me as a student? And this is exactly what you're talking about here, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and I agree with you. If you take the time to really explore the problem and understand it from the student's point of view, what's happening in the student's life, you know, there might be something at home, there might be other things that trigger a certain behavior. So once you take the time to really fully understand it, then you'll find the right way to approach it, how to solve it. And that will save you a lot of time in the future, because if you don't take that time, that problem is just going to repeat itself, and it might escalate as well and create, it's kind of a chain reaction and create more and more problems later on. So it's worth spending the time now to create a much better tomorrow for everyone.
And the learning involved for every single person is invaluable.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And one other thing I see with teachers is that learning design thinking kind of gives them permission to challenge their students, to push them further, to not settle on the first idea. And if it's math, for example, I see them telling their students, okay, so how else can you solve this problem? Don't settle on the first solution. Yeah, that's great. That's one solution. What other ways do you have to solve it? And also talk with your peers and explore together different solutions. So the teachers learn to challenge their students more, to push them into think more deeply, to think more thoroughly, and to come up with better ideas and better solutions.
Which gives so much freedom for those people that finish work quickly, doesn't it? To be able to then go deeper into problems and to feel really challenged, when many of them are not so challenged.
Yes, exactly. And that solves the problem. You know, within one classroom, you have many different academic levels, right? It's not not everyone is at the same level. And so when you know how to push students further, that means that let's say the top of the students within your classroom, they get challenged, but also the rest of the students in your classroom. So you are able to challenge everyone and push everyone forward, where often what I see in the education system, and this is one of the problems that I see, is that the top children, they're not challenged, they're not pushed, and then therefore some of them get disengaged, and that's really a loss for everyone, because these students, the higher achiever students, they are the one that will go further to higher education and learn science and you know, push technology and push the future of our country. So it's important to give them what they need, the learning environment they need from a young age to keep further their thinking and help them develop their capabilities.
So it sounds like it's also helping them develop their capabilities cognitively, but also learning those key social skills that they will need to be able to work alongside other people, which they may not have had valued in the past.
Definitely, yeah, definitely, because design thinking is all about collaborative work, and the students learn that they need to collaborate and work with others to come up with better solution. And so they learn how to communicate better, how to bridge differences of opinions, for example, and that's a beautiful thing to see how they negotiate the difference of opinion. And this is an important skill to have in life, you know, because we always need to negotiate differences in opinions. So you're right, it's
absolutely. And I see so many people almost scared of conflict, and they'll keep their mouths quiet, you know, keep their mouths shut rather than bringing up something that may offend somebody else. But what you're talking about here is that everybody's ideas need to be brought into the mix. Everybody's ideas need to be heard and valued, and then you work through together. Everybody's got their different perspectives that will make the right outcome.
Absolutely. It's crucial to have this diverse thinking. And diverse thinking is what is actually the thriving component for creative ideas. This is what we need to really come up with innovative solutions, this diverse thinking. So definitely embracing everyone's opinions and learning that there is no right and wrong. There is no right opinion and wrong opinion. There are just different perspectives and they're all valid.
Absolutely. So here's the last question that I've got for you, and that is, it's a very closed question actually, which is an interesting one. Can design thinking transform our education system, and how?
Absolutely. Look, we've been talking for many, many years about the need to transform our education system. And I think we might have been relying on politicians and official government bodies to make that transformation. We can't do that anymore. There is no time to waste, and we need to be the one transforming the education system from the ground up. And adopting design thinking really helps us to achieve that, because we are shifting the teacher's mindset approach to learning and teaching at the school, and we're transforming the school environment and creating that innovative culture that helps children succeed today and in the future. So definitely I see design thinking as a way to transform our education system without the need to wait for anyone else to drive that change top down. Because honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen and when it's going to happen, but we can definitely do it ourselves. We can empower educators across the globe to transform their classroom environment, their school environment. And by doing so, we'll transform the whole education system.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that as a way of wrapping this particular discussion up, because that's taken it way beyond the individual classrooms and why should we do it, but actually saying we have a way of being able to do this. We don't have to wait. We can use design thinking in our environments, in our school systems, in our school classrooms and so on, to transform the lives of the people that are within it and around us. So thank you so much, Ortal.
Thank you for having me, Cathy. I really enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, look forward to hearing what happens and seeing what happens as design thinking spreads further and further.